Then and now, we got the crown when we rock the town. Hot sound, keep us breaking ground while we chillin' lounge. 3 generations, black nerd soldiers, podcast snipers trying to pop culture. Allegedly, haters try to talk, but a pedigree in rare form.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Dojo, and I am your captain, Captain Diesel, and I have with me the illustrious usual co-host, Loose V, and Professor E, King of the Comic. And for anybody watching for the first time, everybody always remember, forever and always,
you're listening to the Then and Now podcast.
And today we are here to talk about a couple things. First and foremost, though, I want to check on my co-host. How you guys doing, man? How y'all feeling?
All right.
I'm good. I'm a little twisted. Because you said welcome back to the dojo. It's like, are we getting the
Did I say the dojo?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, damn.
You did.
My bad, man. I've been recording so much. It's fucking reflex at this point. My bad.
I figured. I was like, it's not entirely wrong. I mean, that's cool. We're gonna be the dojo as well. But then you also said that Then and Now podcast was like, I guess I'm not. I guess I'm old. So I get
if they're watching this, it's on the Then and Now podcast. It's the Then and Now podcast channel. That's my bad.
How you living?
God. I'm good, man. Just been grinding it out. You know, I'm trying to enjoy the fall break and the winter break now, and having no school and no students around for a little bit. I get to kind of breathe, get back into my health goals. You know, meal prepping again and all that good stuff.
Oh, that fun stuff. Yeah. When does winter officially start? Is it the
21st?
21st. Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Right on.
What you eat? How's your life been since the last pod?
So this is the last part, because it was like you said, with school and everything, and I'm a teacher, so I'm on the other end of things as far as grading a whole bunch of all my students' assignments, which are great. I love my kids. They did all their big old, I had them do their first chapter of their comic, so to speak, right? So seeing all these kids turn in all these amazing projects and everything else, or they're writing their scripts for stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of grades. I got almost 90 kids to grade stuff for us. It's a lot of work, but I love my job.
Mm-hmm. It's good to hear. I'm glad y'all both are doing well. Now that's out the way, let's talk about some heat, man. Since our last pod, 3 episodes of the new series, the new HBO DC series, Creature Commandos, written by James Gunn, and bringing in a lot of stars that were kind of interesting to me. Viola Davis is reprising her role as Amanda Waller in this. David Harbour is playing the character of Frankenstein. John Gunn is also reprising his role as Weasel, and as well as the character of G.I. Robot. There's a star-studded cast here of actors and voice actors. How do you guys feel about the first 3 episodes so far?
I forgot to watch it.
You did?
No, I didn't. It's pretty solid so far. The first episode was a nice bit of introduction to this version of the world. I mean, it's not very different than what we've seen thus far, through the Suicide Squad, and then going into Peacemaker. I almost call it Peacekeeper again. It's Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm.
I get mixed up all the time.
Yeah, but no. And then getting introduced to Rick's dad. I didn't see that twist.
Yeah.
Is he in the comics? I didn't know.
He exists, I believe, but again, it could be a one-off comic thing, or I have to ask my resident comic historian Kaori to figure that out one.
Okay, because I figured it may have been one of those things where, oh, wait a minute, we just killed off. Spoiler alert: we killed off the Flag in the Suicide Squad, but we kind of want one for other things. What if we have his dad around or something like that? It's okay, it works. Right. I think also didn't they cast Grillo in the live action DCEU or James Gunniverse? He
played a character. I can look it up real quick. Go ahead.
Because I think he's supposed to be in the live action versions of the upcoming. He'll be the ongoing senior Rick Flag in the movies, I believe.
Funny enough, the only hero thing I've seen him casted in is Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
And he was Crossbones.
Yeah, and then he's casted in the new Superman movie as well, so he's playing in that.
I think he is playing that same role.
Outside of Superman in this movie, the only other hero stuff he's been in I'm seeing is the MCU stuff.
Okay. All right then. I mean, he did a great job. He's doing a great job, obviously, as Rick Flag Sr. in this show. Mm-hmm. Frank Grillo's, been around forever. He's a hardcore dude and everything. That's great. He's in that. He's even in that movie Wolves or Werewolves. It's out now. Having fun in that. Yeah. Which it's funny because Werewolves. Slight tangent. Werewolves is a very much kind of a a knockoff of the Purge, which Frank Grillo was also in. So it's like this guy is getting around. He's getting around, but nah. But it's I think it's cool. It's a fun show. It's clearly a very Gunn inspired thing. We'll get into some spoilers, some things that kind of like seem weird or odd to me. But overall, it's still fun enough ride. So fun enough romp. One thing that does I did to point out right off the top that kind of seems weird is how they call, at least in the credits, they named David Harbour's character Frankenstein, which is of course error. It is not right. He is Frankenstein's monster. Frankenstein is in fact the scientist that made him. His name I think in the show is Eric or something crazy like that.
Well, I will say this is based off the comic book version of the character and not the Mary Shelley version. So I'm not sure. I believe they call him Frankenstein in the comic, in the DC comic.
So in the comic, the scientist that made him wasn't Dr. Frankenstein?
I believe he still was, but I think they refer to the monster itself as Frankenstein. That's like for short.
That's still insulting. Still insulting.
I mean, hey, it is what it is. But to more fun stuff though, in regards to I guess some background information on the series. An interesting thing in this, and this is what a lot of people are watching this show a little hard for, is the factor of this series is also going to take place in the same world, like we said before, as the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker series. It's all in the same world. And movies and live actions will like transfer back and forth. So all the events from the Suicide Squad forward and everything from the Peacemaker show up until the arrival of the Justice League is all officially canon in this. So any heroes, villains, anything you see in this show, you can expect to either probably see at some point in live action or possibly carry over to the games. Because from what I'm hearing, Gunn is trying to make it a seamless transition from movies to shows to games and keep track of those things in regards to that. So that being said, there's a lot of people that were looking at, there's a vision sequence very early on in the series where it's like a doomsday sequence. And you see a lot of dead heroes as people were just counting off all the different heroes you see in that scene to see who's going to be making an appearance at some point in this world. So it's an interesting addition to, I guess, give a little bit more incentive for people to watch the show to kind of get an idea of what's coming next. Because up until this point, we haven't had the Justice League introduced. Superman, at least as far as I know, I haven't heard them say anything about any of the Justice League or Superman or Batman or hell, even Wonder Woman, which is surprising because the show features Wonder Woman villain historically in Cersei. Yeah.
And it's funny because it's weird because it's the Snyderverse still in my mind. I'm an old man. Everything seems recent, I guess, but it still feels kind of recent. The Snyderverse Justice League, it came out 2021, 2020.
I can tell you real quick.
But it feels like that was still somewhat kind of recent. So the idea of a full blown overhaul reboot of the entire Justice League, it's like I get it. It's inevitable. But it's
2017.
2017. Okay. That's the Snyderverse. The Snyder
cut.
The Snyder cut. Yeah, the Snyder cut of Justice League. The one I think that came out
That was 2021.
2021, right? 2021. So that's like 3 years ago. That still feels kind of recent for a full overhaul, reboot of all those characters. So I get why they're kind of taking their time. I mean, the new Superman movie hasn't even come out yet, so it takes time to get these things going. And the Suicide Squad came out 2 years ago, I think it was. Which is a great job. Squad. So I'm not rushing this. I understand that it takes time to get it.
That was 2021 as well, actually. Same year.
It was? Okay.
Yeah. It's tough because I feel like it was the best course of action, more so because of all the difficulty you had with the current cast when it comes in regards to Ezra Miller and all that stuff going on with him. And then two, you already have a lot of like convoluted stuff that was shown in regards to Deathstroke and a potential Legion of Doom at the end credits of the Batman v Superman movie you saw there. So there's like a lot of stuff that was kind of pre-set up with certain actors that were problematic. So it's, at least in my opinion, it's best to just like wipe the slate clean and start from scratch versus trying to connect the dots with what was already there and try to make that match up with what's going on in the future.
Oh yeah, it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Yeah. You can't do that. You can't do that. No.
But in regards to the show itself, though, so far I've enjoyed it. It's pretty much been what I expected in regards to ragtag group of a team and Gunn introducing them. And I've enjoyed. I think in the previous episode we got to see a lot more of G.I. Robot. And initially, I was looking at the Bride being my favorite character out of the group. I may have fallen in love with G.I. Robot after seeing this episode. And the way that he was introduced, it was a very interesting thing in regards to how Gunn is written in for each of these characters to kind of have their own modus operandi. And instead of changing them to fit what the environment is, he's changing the environment around them to make it fit to what their motives are in regards to him. His whole thing is, I need to kill Nazis. So it was like putting him in different situations in which people that may have been his friends or people that he saw as colleagues, it's like, well, hey, bro, you're a Nazi, so you got to go. And it gave him a reason to be violent towards his friends and things of that nature, and kind of removed ethics from him, and really showcasing him to be a robot with a directive.
Prime directive, yeah.
Prime
And
directive.
not just like, like, reluctantly doing, like, with the smile on his face. Nazis?
Nazis? Oh, God.
Yeah.
He said, friend, we got to kill Nazis together, friend. We finally did it. It was dope, though. I enjoyed the comedy. Has been, it's been okay. There's been some jokes where like I've laughed out loud, and then there's been some jokes that have totally missed me. But I think that's just, Gunn's humor. Sometimes stuff will hit for me, and sometimes stuff won't. It was the same thing with the Guardians for me as well. But so far, I'm really just enjoying the aspect of him building these team relationships. It's been a lot of building out the chemistry between certain characters and their relationships and their dynamics with one another. And I'm waiting to see how that looks like when he brings it all together, very similar to the Guardians. We didn't get to see this much with the Suicide Squad for obvious reasons, but I love that the Guardians felt like a legit family by the end of their 3-movie run, and also some of the specials they had and whatnot.
Yeah, the so far, because I've only seen the first 2 episodes. There hasn't been as much. Obviously, it's pretty quick. I haven't seen as much camaraderie with the characters. There's the trip
like
that the bride and the fish woman, I can't remember her name right now. Those two took together. It was kind of fun seeing them essentially in those side missions, like a buddy cop where the two of them together, because they're very much different personalities. But I really haven't seen that much. I haven't had a chance to see the team come together.
How did that episode end though? Like with the mermaid girl saying flipping off?
It wasn't. Yeah, they weren't. It
really reminded me a lot of Rocket and Quill's relationship. Because she said "fuck you," and then the bride smiled at her like, "Yeah, we're cool."
I guess that's there.
Yeah.
It's still very early, and then also before that too, you saw what's his face. You saw Flag and Flaming Skull guy, fighting each other to death. Right. So it's kind of, and then but then he's ready to go to bat, trying to defend him as far as why he's trying to get laid with the princess. So it's kind of like it's a bit hit or miss as far as the group dynamics. As far as, are they a team yet? Are they not? I can't quite. It's not quite gelling just yet. Getting there for me again. It's only the first 2 episodes I've seen, so I get it.
You'll feel a lot more in the 3rd episode. GI Robot, and I call her Age Sapien Woman for now. I keep forgetting her name because obviously there's a lot of Hellboy inspirations here from the people that work. I can't remember the guy's name, but one of the directors or the writers worked on a lot of the Hellboy stuff as well. And also Gunn's a fan, so a lot of this stuff is kind of Hellboy inspired. But like her and GI Robot have like I don't know how to describe it. It's a weird thing where she cares for him and he fucks with her in a weird way. I don't know. Again, like I said before, a lot of the relationships are kind of interesting in how they're playing out thus far.
Wait,
I think that's honestly the most important part to me in a series like this. When you build a team, you have to make the team feel like a team to some extent.
Yes, I agree. That's a big, huge part. You said the guy that worked on Hellboy. You mean like Mike Mignola, the guy who created Hellboy, or just someone that worked in the movies?
I talked about it with Aiden the other day. I got to look at I had to ask him about the name. It was a guy that's working on this with Gunn.
He wasn't the creator of Hellboy. It's somebody else.
No, not the creator of Hellboy. No, he was just a fan of a lot of the Hellboy stuff.
I got you.
I think he worked in some of the production for it, but I don't think he was like the creator of it.
Right on. Okay. No, I mean, it's definitely got the raw ingredients, and it is Gunn's. That's what he does best, is finding ways to make these oddballs come together. So I'm definitely there for that. One thing that did kind of strike me was odd. I don't know how y'all feel about this. I want to ask you both about this. Again, spoilers. There's a scene in the 2nd episode with my favorite character so far, the bride, where it shows her backstory. Essentially, her backstory is the most interesting for me, and it's the idea that her creator, who I guess is Dr. Frankenstein, clearly falls in love with her, and they hook up rigorously, which is odd because it's showing that the scientist, it almost is like he's like the father figure. The father, he created her, right? So he's hooking up with his daughter, and then it's also extreme necrophilia because she is not only dead, she's a series of dead parts. So it's like this guy is just like,
let's be honest though. With a character that's willing to grave rob and build a living person out of corpse, he's already messed up as it is.
Yeah,
and
he's already
in a secret house away from his main family. So he's already kind of, I think she alluded to it a little bit too, asking about like, is this his home? And she was like, you think this weird motherfucker would do this at his actual house?
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you. But I just want to make sure it wasn't just me. I wasn't
Yeah,
the only one
he's
like, wait,
weird.
this guy's
He's
a little
weird.
off. Yeah, okay. All right, cool.
Yeah. Also, fun thing, especially for Ethan, we had a recent conversation after certain news came out. Clayface will be in the series. He's been in the series so far. You've seen him.
Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know. Oh,
If you look
okay. I
at
see what you're
that-
saying as far as him being a shapeshifter.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fair.
because I went to look at the IMDb to look at the casting for it, and it showed him being casted and said he was in season 7 episodes. So he's already been in the first 3, and he'll be in some more before he's revealed. So I don't know who he's playing yet or what role he's serving, because we're still kind of getting a little bit of mystery in regards to the motivations behind Cersei and the men of Themyscira.
Yeah.
But yeah, Clayface is going to be a thing soon. I'm curious.
But that's kind of a spoiler. They give you spoiled it for y'all. For anyone who's looking at the casting and stuff on IMDb, they kind of spoiled it for y'all. But that's kind of interesting, though. It is interesting. Yeah, we are a big Clayface fan around here.
So I've been like really looking hard to see like, okay, where is there any evidence? Because you know there's going to be that big reveal at some point where like, I've been here all along. I don't know if he's going to be one of the Creature Commandos or he's going to be how that works out. But I'm interested to see what it looks like.
I mean, you do know the voice of Clayface is also Phosphorus, right? Like that's
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, but that was a little tougher to do because I'm like, how do you manipulate his powers unless he got like a?
No, I'm saying like the voice actor.
Yeah,
that plays Phosphorus.
No, I get that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is like in regards to that reveal, because I was trying to think about who he would be or who he has been so far, because he's been on screen. We've seen Clayface at like pretending to be somebody else, but I don't know who yet, and I was trying to guess that out.
It could be
anybody. And it couldn't be Phosphorus because he can't like copy the abilities he has,
powers like that.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff. Unless he's it could be anybody. But it is true. It is interesting that Ellen Tudyk, I think it's pronounced Tudyk, did in fact do the voice of Clayface on Harley Quinn and Ivy Harley Quinn show, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You did him there, and he's in this show too. Yeah, it's very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I'm here for it. I mean, it's still engaging. I mean, it has all the components that I like a lot. It has fun animation. It has, and they're not holding back as far as the violence and things that need the gore. It's all there. So I'm here to see what it comes with it, how it unfolds, so to speak. One thing I do want to point out real quick too is sometimes it does seem in this day and era with all kinds of budgets and shows, you can tell sometimes where they feel like they may have to rush certain things. Same way like with Arcane or whatnot. There's a part where at the end of the first episode, where old girl is hitting on Rick Flag Senior's character a lot, right? Where she's very much putting herself out there, thirsting hard on top of him, and he's like, no, we can't do that. Turn around to literally 2 hours later at the beginning of the next episode, and they're smashing down. Crazy. It's like you could have at least either not have her go that hard in the first episode or wait a little while longer. Kind of, it's like, what's the point of making it that fast? It's kind of, do something with it. But
and it could have been an issue with editing, which is something we're going to talk about later on for the next topic. It's something that I feel like I haven't had. Maybe I just didn't know as much about it before, like the last couple of years. But I feel like within like the last 5 years or so, there's been a lot more movies and shows that have come out where you can like notably tell that things were cut or things were added in post, or they be ADR'd. Like there's a lot of either, I'm not going to say editing mistakes because they were meant to be done the way they were done, but I guess missteps because they may not have been the smoothest way to go about editing or changing certain things after they're already done.
Oh yeah, that's very much. That's like, you're right. It's always there. It's always been done before. Reshoots are a big thing too, or even an animated series. Like you're saying, they made to make some changes and things of that nature. Of course, yeah, it always happens. It always happens.
Because I noticed some of it in like the Spider-Man animated series way back in the day. There'd be like certain like weird lines,
that
like
stuff,
cuts. Yeah.
If it got to the point like later on in the later seasons, right, where they were like literally splicing in like parts from fight scenes back into the things over and over again. Like, I mean, there was always that same cut from there's a fight scene where he fought the Scorpion in the first season in like a laboratory. I remember seeing that as a kid. I was like, that's the exact same moment from that fight scene, that lab used a dozen times at this show. So yeah, it happens. It definitely happens. Save money. It's budgets.
So in regard to the show, what do you, I'm not gonna say expectations. I don't think anybody has too many expectations about the show, what to expect, but what are you hoping to see more out of the show going forward?
I mean, it's done a good job in using the character's background to like establish the world, like, build out what this new version of DC will look like. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that done. I mean, they've already mentioned and shown characters involved with the Themyscira, so we know that's involved, obviously. But I mean, it was always going to be. I'm looking forward to seeing what other elements of the greater DC universe they tie into this, so we know what to expect as they are building out to the greater DCU after Superman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be cool. I mean, obviously, we're dealing with the Mascara. It seems like they're not trying to go too hard with like Ares. Nobody showing up. This is much more Cersei's own thing over here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't expect to see Diana show up in any way over here. But it is interesting just to kind of dabble into, like you said, filling out more of this new James Gunn DC universe. It may be the other, like you said, Clayface is showing up. It could be the other villains from other stories show up here too, or even some other heroes with cameos. It is cool seeing the Viola Davis do her thing. It wouldn't be too weird to see Peacemaker show up in some capacity for some reason. If obviously it's all in the same world. It's just nice to see this as the new, in a way that they're having fun with the new world of the Gunn DC world. So I'm glad. And it's also to show you how much fun they're having. In the opening credits, you see James Gunn is sitting there as the writer, essentially. So it's like he's pretty much the new Stan Lee for the DC world as it is.
And that's the funny thing about that, because I wanted to mention that as well in regards to him making himself, I'm not gonna say a cultural icon, but like you said, more of a mascot, I guess the best word for it, of DC now.
Face of it, yeah.
Because the thing I like about that in particular is just how transparent he is about what projects are going to release or what things are going to happen. Like recently, again, I discussed it with Ethan, but we announced that there's going to be a Clayface movie directed by Mike Flanagan coming soon at some point, which I'm expecting to be more horror based because of the director. But he announced that himself. That wasn't like a post from the DC account officially or the YouTube channel trailer. It was like James Gunn taking the comic book image of the character and being like, "Hey, bro, that's what we doing. Y'all rocking with it? Cool, let's go with it." And even then, historically, when he first got the job on it, people were inquiring about what happened with the relationship with Cavill and whatnot. He was like very transparent about this happened, this did not happen. This publication is lying about this, and this happened. There's not a lot of, because I think we've had a lot of that with the MCU for a while now in regards to what's been going on behind the scenes, and we've seen a lot more of Feige kind of being hush hush about a lot of stuff. I really enjoy the transparency that we're getting at a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, Gunn's a lot more transparent than anything over at any other studio, whether it be like I said, MCU or Fox or anything like that, or Disney. He's very much like, here I am. I try to stop me, pretty much. He's almost like, and what it seems like, which is great. And he's pretty much. I mean, I'm sure probably Warner Brothers pretty much hired him, saying, "Look, man, you are 100% our fall guy for everything. You can throw all the ratings you want, but you got to fall on the ratings." And he's like, "Cool, I will do it. I'm here for it all." And I like that they actually have somebody that has the balls to do that, because I'm sure. I mean, all fairness, I'm sure he makes some mistakes. I'm sure not all the moves will be great, all the parts will be great. That's perfectly fine. At least he's trying and he's owning up to everything he's doing, and he's proud of it too. That's the biggest thing. He's proud of what his team is producing, and he's happy about it. It's like, yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to see enthusiasm. That's how you get the fans excited about things too. It's contagious, so to speak.
It seems like he's an actual genuine fan of the comics in general. From what I'm seeing, he's like, in regards to, he's posted stuff in regards to what his inspiration was, what comic runs in particular. I think when he was when Crypto was announced in that one little still shot of image, he was like, "Well, I looked at Superman All-Star this, that, or the third for this, and that's where my inspiration came from." A fun question I have was, we'll start with Otis here.
Before we go off of that, I still want to stay on the gun topic. I mean,
we're staying on the gun topic. Go ahead.
Be a fan or not, whether he dived into a million comics or not, at the end of the day, what matters is execution, and he hasn't had bad projects yet. As long as you stay in this 8 range that he's just kind of been trucking at, I mean, you can count on one hand how many 8s we got from the MCU. So keep stacking those up. I mean,
which is something people don't talk about a lot, because like up until Infinity War, there's a lot of L's. From like between Iron Man and Infinity War, there's a lot of bombs in between there.
You're saying bombs. There weren't bombs though. They actually,
monetarily speaking, a lot of them made money, but in regards to public perception, people did not like Thor: Dark World.
No, they didn't. They didn't like Thor: Dark World, but they weren't like. I guess the thing was, they weren't like hardcore stinkers. Like they were like 7s. Like they were in phase 1, right? We're getting off topic, but in phase 1, the biggest problem that people had was probably with the Hulk, Incredible Hulk with Ed Norton. But even that, it was like, it wasn't perceived that well, but people were like, "Oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is the worst thing I've ever seen." the problem with the other DC verse was there were movies that people were like, what is going on? And this is absolute travesty. People were demanding, like for Justice League, the biggest Justice League movie, right? People were demanding a massive, like, Snyder cut. Where's the Snyder cut? Or even before that, the second biggest movie that came out of the DC universe, DCEU, after Man of Steel was Batman v Superman, and that was objectively bad. People were upset about that. People were mocking the whole Martha thing. The MCU didn't really have that as much. Yes, it definitely had Iron Man 2 had its problems. It had Thor: Dark World had its problems, but they weren't things that are making people like lose their minds about how upset they were about it.
Larson happened,
but they were like screaming in anger about it.
They were flops in the same ways that the Carnage movies were flops in regards to the first two making a lot of money. Like most of the money that the Sony movies made were from the first two Venom movies. Yeah. People know that second Venom movie, you can maybe talk about the first one and maybe you enjoying it, I guess. But objectively speaking, we know that second one was not a good movie, but it made the most money.
But that's not MCU though.
That's what I'm saying. In the same vein of like what's deemed a success in that movie realm, where the fans did not like the movie, but they went to go. The interesting thing with the Venom one is just because it was so short and they played it like fresh out of theaters and there wasn't much other competition with that movie. But to Otis's point though, in regards to execution, the Mike Flanagan news was something very interesting to me because we were talking about this a while back in regards to directors and horror directors. We would love this, or directors in general, we would love to see tackle certain different genres. Because we know Mike Flanagan is doing Clayface, which is something I would not have guessed ever. I didn't think Mike Flanagan would work on any kind of a superhero project. I didn't see it coming. What are some other directors you guys feel like Gunn will kind of look to bring in? Because obviously he's not going to work and direct every movie. I think the only ones confirmed are The Authority, the Superman movie, and then Peacemaker and the Creature Commando stuff. But everything else, he's more than likely going to distribute out to the people that he feels like can execute the projects in the best way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean that's a fair question. I mean, obviously Mike Flanagan is a fun choice. Obviously, if we're all fans here of Fall of the House of Usher, that was good stuff. Also, Flanagan is the other several projects outside.
He doesn't have too many misses in the genre if we keep it, but
he's not hit or miss for me necessarily, but I'm not the biggest fan of like all of his stuff. Haunting Hill House for me is the top. Haunting Hill House and the House to Follow Usher, those are the top two. They did that movie Oculus, which came out with Karen Gillan a few years back, which is pretty good too. But it is what it is. But your question was actually about directors you want to see in the DCU. So I'm trying to think. I mean, my go-to answer is always going to be Fincher. I would love to see David Fincher. But at the same time, I'm already spoiled because I got Matt Reeves doing the Batman, which pretty much was a David Fincher version of the Batman to speak, more or less. So it'd be kind of cool. It's not going to happen now, but it would have been kind of cool to see Ryan Coogler do like a Wildcat movie or a movie that dealt with a character that doesn't have powers, battling or fighting other characters. Essentially, that'd been a lot of fun to watch. But it's gone now.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly haven't put much thought into people I want to see direct for the DCU. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to Jordan Peele doing something. Even if it's not necessarily horror related, I wouldn't mind seeing his spin on a superhero, especially one of the black superheroes in DC.
Yeah, because we know Gunn's talked about Static being like on the way. And then I know there was a weird thing in like for the last couple of years for a while because Milestone had a weird relationship with DC. But because Gunn, if I remember right, Gunn like worked on some of the writing for some of the earlier episodes of the Static Shock cartoon series, and he has a better relationship with them personally. Maybe they'll work out like a Spider-Man deal with Sony and Marvel where they got to get the joint appearance, but he's remained in ownership. And I think that was the main issue is that they were trying to take ownership of the character away from Milestone, and they were like, "No, we're not fucking doing that." That's pretty much the flagship character for Milestone. So we'll see more of that. I mean, if we get a Static, then we already know like Icon and Rocket; those other characters are a possibility. But we've seen them. Yeah, we've seen them in other stuff.
Mr. Terrific is already in the version.
Yeah, he's confirmed. But I think is he a Milestone character though? I thought he was a.
No, he's not. No, he's a DC. But I'm just saying, like just other characters that I would.
Other black characters. Yeah.
Those are characters. If Jordan Peele came in, I could definitely see him wanting to do a movie around any of the Milestone or like the characters like Mr. Terrific. Coogler too. To your point, I don't think Coogler's tied into like an exclusive deal with Marvel to only work on their movies.
I know he's doing obviously Black Panther 3 with Denzel.
Yeah.
Now, but it
And he
will be
was
kind of
supposed
fun.
to do the King movie and the King Dynasty thing, but that got canceled, obviously.
That massively canceled. What'll be kind of fun, is if they did, it's not going to happen, but if they did do a Denis Villeneuve Batman Beyond movie. Denis Villeneuve is a guy who did Blade Runner 2049 and Dune, right? Those big, huge budget, kind of over the top sci-fi things and Arrival. If they did a Denis Villeneuve Batman Beyond, that could be fire. I'm not saying cast Timothy Chalamet. I'm not saying that.
Please
It could be fire.
Dear Lord, do not cast Timothy Chalamet as
Hey, while you talking, I ain't gonna hold you. I had the same sentiment until I saw that second Doom movie where I'm like, I don't know if I'll be mad at that.
No, he's a fine actor.
He wouldn't be my first pick,
knocking
but I wouldn't be mad if they picked him for that.
He's a great actor. But I don't see him as that kind of that type. Terry McGinnis is meant to be a different type of person. Anyways, but I could see Denis Villeneuve doing a great version of that. Fede Alvarez could also do a really good. Fede Alvarez, for those who don't know, who just did the Alien Romulus in Evil Dead a reboot movie back in the day. Fede Alvarez could probably do a really, really good. They got somebody doing Clayface. He could do some other kind of really cool, maybe even a Justice League Dark live action movie or something like that. Would be really good for him.
Also, keep in mind that Gunn himself has said he's really trying to put a lot of focus on a lot of the C-list characters in DC that don't get the proper attention. So we're gonna see it like the Huntress. I think is another character that he may have mentioned before.
She's awesome.
I'm trying to remember. Booster Gold's been casted already, so we know he's getting his movie.
Do we have a director for that?
Not to my knowledge. I think Kamaj is the only person I know that they've casted as far as the character, but I don't know much about. Then I know Blue Beetle's returning because he said he wanted to use the Blue Beetle actor and the character again. The So we're gonna see, man. It's a lot of stuff that's planned. Like I said before, I still have my optimism thus far. It's been somewhat warranted with how good this show's been thus far. And again, so we're between the Suicide Squad, this, and Peacemaker. So far, he's been pretty on the mark for stuff that's he himself has written.
Hypothetical. Would you want to see a James Gunn Teen Titans?
I wouldn't be mad at that. That feels like his type of team, though. Like that's his type of movie. Especially with like the comedy that they have and like how dark they can get. He may be the perfect person to write that, but I don't know if he would take that. Well, you think he would take that on though?
So Teen Titans tends to be more teen aimed at teens. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy and Creature Commandos, things like that. They're not necessarily aimed at the teenage demographic.
Yeah, I mean, he could keep the same jokes because I'm looking. When we look at like the peak level, the peak presentation of Teen Titans being the animated series, they had a lot of like not adult humor outright, but like suggestive humor in that show. Hell, even in the Teen Titans Go thing, they have like a whole thing of like Raven wore some kind of shorts, and you saw Cyborg off to the side, like really pounding a thing of meat off to the side, and like that kind of like suggestive comedy. That's something I think he would do well, but I don't know what his plate looks like in regards to the 2 movies and the show he already like has been working on.
Yeah, I think what will probably happen is they probably have a Greg Berlanti come back or something and do a Teen Titans movie. That's I don't know about that,
but we're probably getting one though. We talked about Teen Titans isn't I don't think they're a C-list. Well, they're not C-list by any means in regards to popularity. No. But in regards to the amount of attention they get in the comics and in like live action stuff,
the team isn't C-list, but the individual characters are.
Well, so Hawk and Dove, that kind of stuff. I mean, like the show Titans, obviously, was that at 4 seasons? I think it was 4 or 5.
Yeah,
seasons.
It ran way too long.
It ran too long, but it still had people still watched it. They tried to go dark with that show for the most part. It's pretty much trying to be as dark as possible. I mean, the biggest tagline for the commercial was when Robin saying, So I mean, if you're having the main character saying "fuck Batman," it's like, all right, you're trying to go really hard in the paint. So I think they need to kind of course correct. It can't be. I don't think it should be as campy and over the top as Teen Titans Go, but I don't think it should be obviously as dark and grisly as Titans. The Young Justice was a pretty good path, but that's not James Gunn's vibe. James Gunn wouldn't go that was, if you think about that was pretty serious for the most part. I don't think he would go that serious. So you got to find the right mix of those kind of things.
Funny enough, I don't think this show is connected because this show was on like its second season before Gunn even took over. I feel like with the Harley Quinn show, for the new season, Red X is making a return for the first time in a while. Red X is going to be in the Harley Quinn show.
Wait, so that's wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy. What season are they now? 4 or 5?
3, I think. I think it's the third season.
No, this is like the fourth.
Is it the fourth?
This is fourth or fifth at
I think it's
least.
the fourth. Yeah, it needs to be the fourth.
Be tripping. I can look it up real quick. But yeah, I saw Red X in the trailer and I was like, wow, I haven't seen him. I don't think I've seen him in comics or anything since then.
I haven't seen him since Teen Titans, the OG Teen Titans show. Yeah. But he was a Slade, basically. Yeah.
No,
they're going into the 4th season, I believe.
4th season. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only got 4. Well, it could be the 5th. They have 4 seasons listed, so I don't know if that's 3 with the 4th announced on the internet, or if they have.
There's for sure 4 seasons that have already been like.
I think they have 4 seasons out.
Okay.
I think the 4 seasons airing now. I believe. I mean, that's not the way it's fine. But okay, yeah, it'll be fun. I think what it is though is that we kind of needed some. People were feeling the whole like superhero fatigue, or kind of feeling some Marvel fatigue. I get it. It's fine. Marvel had its brand, and that kind of stuff was a little weird and a little thin for people. So with DC doing something completely different, have a different vibe, I feel like that's in a way too. It's a good thing to actually have a changing of the tide to kind of keep people interested, keep people engaged with things. You don't want to have one side. And I'm not saying that either side can't have both be thriving. That's great for both to be thriving. But I am here for it if this gives a DC a chance to do some stuff.
Part of me, because when I hear the hero fatigue, I don't really think that's socially. I think it's a thing, but it's not really a thing. When I look, because I had to do a lot of research when I was doing the Craven review in regards to some of the universe, the Sony stuff. All in all, they made money off those movies, off those, I think, 6 movies? The 3 Venom movies, the Madam Web, Craven, they made like over a couple $1 billion off all those movies combined.
So they lost some too. Madam Web lost money.
That one did, but
not a lot, but it did, because it only cost $80 million to make it. But it did lose money. It did lose money.
In the grand scheme of like all 6, though, they made a pretty good profit off of all 6 of those movies.
But not Morbius. Morbius lost money too. Twice.
No, he means like the collective.
All together, like
all the money that Venom made was enough to course correct.
So here's the thing. If you're saying the Venom trilogy made money, yeah, of course it did. It made $850 million off the first one, which will cost less than $100 million. Yeah, of course. That one movie made enough to cover all the rest of the failures.
Exactly.
But I guess the thing is, what I'm saying is you can't say those movies made a profit or good, because those movies, like 5 of the 6 of them, almost lost money. The Venom movies made some money.
In regards to like the investment, because they set up, because these movies were planned out for like, they originally planned to do them like after the Amazing Spider-Man 2, and then they had to like course correct after that movie didn't do well. They planned to put out money and section out money for all these movies for a while. And like as a whole, because I don't know how the monetary logistics of that works. If you like plan out these 6 and then you cut a big check, or if you cut the check project by project. But I know we're adding up what was spent and what was earned from all 6 of these combined. And granted, to Otis's point, a lot of that could just come from the first 2 Venom movies altogether, like, which is even more crazy to me that those 2 made up for all 6, which is crazy.
That's literally what happened. That's literally what happened. Actually, but also 3 broke even. 3 did make a $500 million. Like 3 has already made money.
Yeah.
It's not lost money. But you got to remember,
they made a profit off of these 6 all in all.
Oh yeah, fair enough. But I don't. But that's not how. Again, that's not how studios see it. So, for example, when the Marvels that came out lost all that money, they were like, well, you know what? The other 20 MCU movies made money, therefore it's fine. Like, no, this project lost money, therefore that's a loss. We count that as a loss. So when Morbius came out in theaters twice, it lost money. They were like, this is a loss. Again, remember, like you said, I saw your video actually. He pointed out that Craven was so bad that they canceled they shut down operations on the non-Spider-Man Spider-Verse. Before it even came out, they said, no, we're done. We're shutting down shop. So if things were profitable for them, they wouldn't have done that in anticipation of the bomb.
That was indifference to future interest in the stuff, because they were getting killed on the internet. Well, they had been getting killed on the internet.
Yeah, they did.
I think the difference in the MCU stuff is like, if they bomb in the MCU at this point, they know they have a loyal fan base at that point that's going to keep watching these movies, versus Sony was trying to get this shit off the ground. They're like, okay, we got to get this shit moving so we can keep pumping out these movies. And they saw the interest just was not there, which is even more weird because they had a lot of stuff, because they were not promising Spider-Man, but essentially promising Spider-Man in some after credit scenes and having certain things just teasing to death. Even with Kraven, like legit, there's a scene in the Kraven movie where he gets this drug that shows his worst fear that him and his mother were dealing with, and they're spiders that are falling. I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
All right.
And Kale's in the movie too. Is his brother? I mean, no one cares about these movies. It's insulting. By the way, you gotta admit, I gotta give my man Russell Crowe a hand. This guy kind of like killed. I mean, his part may have been fine, but he literally on 3 different occasions kind of canceled franchises. He was in the Dark Universe. Remember the Dark Universe? He was in the Mummy. Yeah. And he was in that one movie, and the franchise went down. And he was in Thor: Love and Thunder, and that movie was so hated by everyone pretty much that it kind of like shut down all the. It put a pause on Thor and like a lot of things on Marvel for a while. Then he came out here in Kraven, and it literally days before the movie comes out, they're like, "Yeah, we're shutting down operations on all Spider." It's like Russell Crowe has the Midas touch of doom. It seems like.
Oh man, I don't know, because he did the Pope's Exorcist, and that turned a profit. And I think they have a sequel or 2 coming from that movie. Well, all this horror stuff he's been doing has been, which that's the thing with him. He's done like 2 or 3 Exorcist movies where he's played an Exorcist in like 3 or 4 movies so far.
It's rapid fire. the same 2 years. Like they're not the same movie. It's not the same movie. Not the same franchise.
Don't worry about it. There's one coming. It was like something with the Exorcist, and I'm like, damn, they made a sequel for this already? The Pope's Exorcist just came out. They're like, no, it's a separate.
It's a different movie. He's a different Exorcist.
Damn, bro, how many Exorcist roles are you gonna play, bro?
Yeah, it's wild, man.
But all that being said, the transition, I guess, into this, because I did have the collapse on a Sonyverse in a conversational point here. For the most part, we understand and we've discussed like why it doesn't work in regards to making these movies without Spider-Man not working. But what do you foresee the pivot being? Because they're not going to pump out any more movies at this point. Do you think they finally just like knuckle up and just like either sell the rights back to Marvel, or maybe they just say, hey, you'll handle all the Spider-Man stuff from now on? Or how do you think they adjust from here?
I mean, so it's like, I don't think that it's just that those movies don't work without Spider-Man. I think they're just bad movies, right? Like, if the first Venom movie was acceptable, right? Mm-hmm. Like, if they had built off that in a positive direction, I feel like they could have continued to go off of that. But that second Venom movie was painful, and it was so hurtful that I refused to watch the third one based off of how the trailers and just how painful that second one was.
You made a good decision.
Yeah. They're not. The thing is, because the first, like you say, is acceptable. The premise in and of itself is acceptable. Keep in mind, in the comic books, there is the whole like Agent Venom or whatever with Flash. I mean, there are characters. Yeah. So they've found ways to actually have anti-heroes or characters that were spawned from Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse, to do their own thing. There's even a whole Kraven story where Kraven poses essentially as a character in Spider-Man, as Spider-Man himself.
He buries Spider-Man and takes on the mantle for however long.
Right, and it's one of the best stories with Kraven in it. That's from a while ago. So it's like there are ways you can do this. So there are ways you can definitely have these characters that have compelling, interesting stories. Even Madam Web. Madam Web has stories that are interesting without Spider-Man in them too. It's more or less. Well, I mean, it's more or less because she's meant to be she's never meant to be the main hero. It's better.
They tried to reboot her a couple times with her own stuff, and it was not hidden.
The reboots are terrible. They're worse than the Meta Wallers. But the point is that a capable writer and a capable filmmaker can make all kinds of great stories and do all kinds of great things. Yes, I agree with Otis in that wholeheartedly. The problem is these are just bad movies. These are not. I tried watching Madam Web. That is atrociously bad because you cast a character. I mean, oh my God, Dakota Johnson is like, I do not care. I don't know why they should have. They easily could have just said, you know what, let's go ahead and recast. Let's go recast right now. No one will mind. It's fine. We can do that. It's okay.
Have you seen the interviews they've had of her, like asking her about the movie or about the character? And she's like, haha, yeah, I don't know who the fuck this is.
She hated it from the start. Fired her agent the day the movie, the trailer dropped. Fired her agent the day the trailer dropped. She did not know what she was getting into for that. That's atrocious. What are you doing, people? What are you doing?
The only pushback I'll give, because I think I agree where you can make these things work. I think it's really difficult because all these characters' reasoning for even existing initially was because of Spider-Man. Like looking at Kraven specifically, he was introduced to hunt Spider-Man and hunt. And because I talked about it in the review for this movie in particular, the issue they had with him was that his motivation was him wanting to be better than his father. And I'm like, that doesn't necessarily, you can make that work with somebody else, but if you're trying to capture this character, what made him great, that's not the right motivation for him. Like, he needs to be hunting big game, rather that be a superhero powered person. Like, maybe you could, if you wanted to have Rhino, he should have been looking to hunt Rhino or some shit like that. I don't know. But
see,
for a lot of these characters, their reasonings don't exist without Spider-Man in the comics.
Penguin didn't exist without Batman. Like that, if anything, that shows that it's possible. It's just that they did
the Suicide Squad, the entire Suicide Squad, the Creature Commando. I mean, these are characters that were villains spawned directly from the heroes' stories.
The difference, especially with Batman's Rose Gallery, is that outside of the Joker, they all would have existed if Batman never came. Like, if Batman doesn't exist, those characters still become who they become. Because
you don't
their
see stories without them.
You do in the comic books you do. In the animated or live action stuff, you don't see as much because popularity is not there as much. But they have great stories that are written for them solo without Batman. Like, Poison Ivy's had a great run solo, including, now it's had like other side characters and maybe other pieces that have come in to help like assist the story. But there's been amazing, great stories that have been told without Batman with these characters. And for the most part, you can argue Craven had to some extent. But I think the issue is just the introduction. If you can make it work. But with them, they kept trying to tease Spider-Man so much and saying that he was going to be in. But then, especially with the Venom thing, because I had to argue with a bunch of people because they were talking about how Venom has always been an anti-hero, or for the most part, he has been off and on. But in his inception, he was a villain, and he grew into being the lethal protector aspect that they showed. I think it was like literally 5 years from he was introduced in like 88 of when I looked it up or something like that. And then 93, the lethal protector book dropped. So it was like a 4 to 5 year gap.
But even before Lethal Protector, though, he did team up with Spider-Man to fight Carnage. So that was,
but he was still he still wanted to kill that man at that point, though.
He still wasn't cool with him. But it's the idea that he is a character outside. Like, he doesn't have to only want to kill Spider-Man. He has other things he can do.
My big reasoning for that being, though, is just like the growth. Like, you have to show the growth. It felt like they tried to like start at Lethal Protector, and I'm like, you can't start with him wanting to just save everybody just because, or he really didn't even have any. In the first movie, he had a little bit of like fight with Venom in regards to control over his own body, but for the most part, they became best friends like damn near halfway into that movie. It felt like.
Yeah.
I'm like, it feels like with a lot of these heroes, there's not a lot of development from where they should be from the floor up into, if you want to make them all anti-heroes or maybe even heroes to a certain extent, build up to that. It just started there already. Is what annoyed me so much about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, I relate that to the execution of those movies. Like, if Venom was a rated R movie and he was just wreaking havoc on the town for the entire first movie, if they basically gave us Prototype, the video game, as a movie with Venom, I'm like, all right, whatever, cool. I don't even need a story here. Just let him destroy things.
That's what clearly Prototype was inspired by Venom and Carnage. That's a whole, you can tell. It's a symbiote on his body. Yeah, 100%. It's the same thing with Peacemaker. Who gave a damn about Peacemaker at all? The character. I mean, he was a D-list character at best, but they found a way to actually give him a story, made him interesting. It worked. You can make anything work if you have a good writer and a good team working on the project.
To your point, though, too, about Penguin, I think Penguin's probably the perfect example in regards to the Craven movie, to where we saw an entire season of him doing things that may have benefited some people, like getting power turned on in certain parts of the city, putting money in certain people's pockets. But at the end of the series, at the end of the day, we understand that he's still a horrible human being. He's still a horrible person. You can have him do great, like bad people can do good things. And I think that was the weird thing about this Craven movie in particular, where his only motivation was being a good person. And I'm like, that just doesn't make sense for this character.
That's the problem. They're not treating them like villains. They are supposed to be villains, and they're not treating them that way. That's the problem. They're trying too hard to have the Kiki too. They want to have their main villains also be heroes for these stories. Like, that's not. More
that was my biggest critique in the video that I did for it. Because at that point too, when you do bring in Spider-Man at some point, why the hell would he be fighting them?
Right.
Like if you watch the Craven movie, there should be no reason why Craven and Spider-Man beef outside of the fact he's scared of spiders. Because the whole, like, literally, I don't know, I know y'all haven't seen it yet, but literally the whole thing is him running away from his mob boss father and then him becoming a bounty hunter where he just kills the worst mafia members and criminals in the world. because he doesn't want them to be alive.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, he just kills bad people, essentially. So I'm like, why the hell would Spider-Man have any? And then they don't even want to go to New York. You said what?
That's why they would beef, because he's
yeah.
But even then, at some point, why would you wouldn't want to like hunt him? And even they wouldn't be, because he has this thing where he doesn't want to go back to New York for whatever reason. Like, the whole movie takes place in Russia and London. Like, he doesn't want to ever go back to New York. Something that he says in the movie as well.
I got you. I mean, it could be because also, I mean, I've seen stories where Kraven is literally, it's not like he's beefing with Spider-Man as much as it's a challenge. He sees Spider-Man and says, oh my gosh, it's the ultimate opponent. He's not mad at him at all. And Spider-Man's not mad at him either. It's the idea is this is a worthy opponent for me. So that could work. The problem, like you said though, Charlie, again, is they have set him up to be very much I haven't seen the movie and I refuse to watch it on purpose, but they haven't set up the Kraven to be a villain of any kind. So the idea that Spider-Man would have to save people's lives from him, or that Venom, I mean, even it seems like if Kraven is only a hitman, unless he's hired to kill Spider-Man for some reason, which seems unlikely, it wouldn't work. And that's the problem. They didn't really, you hit the nail on the head as far as saying these are characters they want to have. These are villains that they try to slam into a square peg to make them heroes, and it doesn't work that way.
And I want to, for people watching, I do want to say, like, to my co-host's point, any good writer can make anything work. If it's an excellent writer, you can take whatever sloppy, you could possibly make a good thing out of it. They just didn't do a good job of setting any of that possible. Like, they made it really difficult for a writer to come in and make that shit work, because you've established them as already being heroes. So the proper motivation is going to be, because you could do a thing where you make Spider-Man out to be a threat because of J. Jonah Jameson, and he goes to hunt him down because he perceives him as being bad. You can make stuff like that work, but it's going to be really hard to make a whole movie work with just that concept. At least for me, I'm not a professional writer or screenplay writer, so I don't. For me, it's difficult. For somebody else, it may not be as difficult. I don't know, but from where I'm outside looking in, it's difficult.
If you approach the story, like you said before, I agree, they should have built in the characters in a different way. They should have been, you're following Spider-Man and these villains are introduced. Sergei's wife, I can't remember her name now in the comics and in the stories and everything. He's I don't think he has a wife in this movie, but Sergei has a wife that knows Spider-Man. If something had happened where it turns out where it looks like Spider-Man has something to do with her getting injured or hurt, and Kraven believes, oh my gosh, this Spider-Man guy either hurt or killed my wife, and he's obsessed with getting him because he believes that that's what went down. And that could be a great move right there. He's obsessed with getting revenge for his wife or avenging his wife. Kraven's not a bad guy, but he sees Spider-Man as going to hurt his wife. There you go. But again, you'd have to have it's got to be in the deft hands to handle some kind of a story like that. So
also, Chameleon is in this movie, by the way, in case I didn't know.
He's his brother, but
he has his abilities at the end of the movie. They allude to Dr. Warren being the guy that gave him his abilities, and there's also another character in here that I call him Shades because he looks just like Shades and Luke Cage, but he has like the abilities of like Mesmero and like a Sharingan together, where he'll like put you under a Genjutsu, count to 3, and then walk around you and shoot you. And then they kill him off. They like set something up to where he has this beef with Kraven because Kraven killed his master or his mentor, and then they kill that character off really unceremoniously by a side character, like abruptly. Again, there's a lot of issues with the movie from a movie standpoint, but I don't know. I want to see how they fix this because we know Spider-Man is getting another movie at some point. It's too valuable of a character to not get another movie.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, you said, how do we see?
It's like, how do you salvage this stuff?
You give the licensing deal to Marvel and say, do what you want with our Spider-Man. You do it better than us anyway.
Right.
But I don't see them selling Spider-Man. It pretty much be like, hey, y'all handle the storytelling and everything like that, but keep us in on the loop as far as us getting paid. That's it. They'll never sell him back. That's going to happen ever.
You remember back in the day when that email came out that I can't remember the lady's name because she was like an executive producer on a lot of this stuff. Yeah, she put out the email saying that the criteria they had for a Spider-Man movie on Sony's part is, at least for Peter Parker specifically, he had to be a white heterosexual male. Like that was the ruling they had for that, and they act really weird. Like it feels like the powers that be over at Sony do really weird shit to get these movies made instead of just being very open to suggestion from people that have done it better than you. I don't understand why they put so much of a handicap on stuff. Which I mean, I don't think that's a crazy handicap, but having that in general anyway is like, damn, like, bro.
But again, it is. You said Peter Parker. Fine, that's Peter Parker. You've seen in the movies they've had Peter B. Parker, they had Amy Parker. I'm sorry, Penny Parker. They had Penny Parker. They had Miles Morales. So it's like, cool. that's Peter Parker over there. We got all these other characters over here we can do stuff with, and that's again the Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. Those are under Sony's. Those are very much Sony movies. So it's there are workarounds, there are loopholes still. I think though, ultimately to answer your question, it's pretty much they have to basically they need to kind of scrap this whole Sinister Six without Spider-Man stuff. Just get rid of it. Put it on pause.
Do you feel like they'll double down on the animation though at that point, where it's like, okay, we won't do it live action, but we're gonna double down and make this. We're gonna do the same thing, but we're gonna animate this.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, they can't do anything worse.
Right, which I think that'd be the better route too as well. Which I'm surprised they haven't done it yet. Once you've already seen the success of the Spider-Verse movies already, it's like
animated.
I don't know why you haven't
putting
done it
them
yet.
in the games. I mean, they haven't missed with the Spider-Man games. I don't think they're going to miss with this Wolverine game coming up. I mean,
so yeah, I'm not sure how involved because it's Insomniac that did those games too.
That was the studio that did the production on it, but they still own the. Because Insomniac still have to follow like the criteria that Sony has for the character in the Vision and form.
So that seems to be the idea, that winning formula is pretty much Sony's aware of these things. They may have a couple, like you said, they may have a couple of requests, but letting actual auteurs do their thing. The same way that James Gunn is doing with his people over there. It's like, I'm trusting my writers and directors to do their thing. I may oversee things here and there, but I want them to have some creative freedom. So yeah, let them do it. It does
what the partners look like. It's not like the people that are in charge of the live action movies are doing the weird shit. The people that are in charge over the management of the IP itself, in regards to the animated stuff and the games and whatnot, they're like, I feel like they move like dichotomically different than one another. Where it's just like, all right, we'll let y'all do what y'all want to do, and then you have to follow our strict rules for this character.
Yeah,
on the other side,
a weird scenario. But part of it too was they hired some pretty rough. Like I can't remember who they hired, who they got to do the Venom movies. That's their own thing over there. But I do know that the writers, like one of the writers for like for Madam Web, right? Madam Web, the same guy that wrote Gods of Egypt. It's like you're not hiring people that have done the best work. You may want to make sure you actually put time and effort into acquiring talented people to do these things, or inspired or passionate, talent.
Mm-hmm. What you gonna say? Oh, you got something to say?
No, I'm just saying, like, yeah, just look at the people with the track listing, like Uncharted. I think that's what the director of that also wrote Venom 3, and that's when I knew. I was like, yeah, I'm never going to see this movie. Like, never going to watch this. So yeah,
these are not inspired authors or writers. These are just like work for hires that don't really care.
And I wish they do what DC does, because at least what Zaslav used to do, where it was like with him, if they think the movie's gonna be bad or it doesn't have like a positive media publication, like on a positive reception on social media, they're like, yeah, we're just gonna cut this for tax write-offs. We're just gonna cut the movie in general. Like, we'll have a fully shot, trailers made. No, we're just gonna bury this thing and it's never gonna come out.
Here's the thing, though. Let me ask you all this question. Do you think that Warner Brothers' Batgirl movie was worse or could have been worse than some of these Sony projects like Morbius or Madam Web?
There's no telling, bro.
For it to be worse than Madam Web, that's a huge.
Did you watch Batgirl?
No, I have. It didn't come out.
Did you see the?
No, I'm talking about the series, but the suit.
I mean, Batwoman is a series.
Batwoman. Sorry, did you see Batwoman at all? Like any of it?
I saw some of it because I was like, let me just see. I saw some of the first episode.
It could be that bad. It could be that bad.
But even Batwoman, I'll be honest with you though. The part I saw of Batwoman, it was still bad. Madam Web, she didn't. Dakota Johnson didn't care. You have your lead actor not giving a damn about what she's doing, like, and it's that obvious. It's like, what are we doing? If the actor doesn't care, was Tom Hanks or Brendan Fraser locked in for that Batwoman movie as well? Yeah, I think Brendan Fraser was. Yeah, Brendan Fraser.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
he's already in it. It was shot. Yeah. It was basically done. So it's hard. It's hard to believe. It's hard for me to believe that it was that much worse. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying it was good. I'm never gonna say it was good. I have no idea. Yeah, but it's hard to believe it's worse. How much worse than Madam Web?
Fuck that! I wanted a Scooby-Doo movie. We were supposed to get a Scooby-Doo Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Animated Christmas. I'm like, y'all don't really miss on the animated Scooby-Doo stuff as much. Like, well, at least the Scooby-Doo stuff.
Scooby-Doo. As long as again, Scooby-Doo. They gotta stop doing this stuff. But they do IPs without the main character. What are you doing? What's the point of this?
I ain't gonna lie though. I saw did y'all see that little animated short that somebody did of like a horror version of the Velma show? of a Scooby really being like a demon and then being like, I'll find the clip and send it to you, but it was low-key kind of fire. I'm like, I would love to see this.
But so Scooby's a demon, and he's
It was like a fan.
Velma?
It was a fan-made thing to where the Velma show was like happening, and she like realized Scooby. There's something off about Scooby, and he turned out to be like this sentient demon. And he was like, he's had them in like this loop for years, and he's like, well, you spoiled the fun. It gets really weird. I'm gonna find it and send it to you.
So basically, Higurashi Scooby.
Yeah. That'd be here's the thing. I would watch the hell out of that. That'd be dope as hell.
That would be like I would watch that immediately. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm here for that right now.
But guys, before we were to close out, because we have been here for an hour, I don't want to hold each on. You said you had like an hour and 15, right? To close out the show, there was a topic on the internet that was kind of provocative, for lack of a better term. Covered it.
Going?
Huh?
Does it get the people going?
It does. It did, actually. It may still be doing it on the internet. I covered it on the stream I did with Omizi, I think like Monday or so, or whatever. It was not too long ago. Essentially, there's a lot of discourse around the aspect of a 16-year-old artist by the name of Lynn had created this fan-made art of Dandadan, where he or she took Ken Takakura and then Momo Ayase and made them black, essentially. Like he just traced over the art that was there, added his own things, and made them minorities, essentially. And then there's this one guy that claimed to be Japanese because he did not have a profile picture there, so nobody really knows. And said, "Hey, I'm Japanese. Stop doing this. We're not Disney characters. Stop making Japanese characters or Asian characters black, or anime characters black in general." I found it very interesting for the fact of, again, I've ever since I started going to conventions like 2 or 3 years ago, I've always noted, especially the black centric ones, I've always noticed that was a thing where we would have black versions, or I'm not gonna say black wash, but like black versions of characters, or we put characters in very black centric or black culture centric clothing, whether it be Goku wearing BAPE and wearing ones or whatever it may be. How do y'all, because again, this person, there's no way to prove this person is Japanese, but if Japanese people did feel a certain type of way about that, how would you guys feel about that in particular, in regards to them as a culture feeling kind of weird about you taking their art or the things that are originally them and just changing them around to be something else?
Have you listened to J-pop?
I have actually. It's kind of fire. I ain't gonna hold you.
Yeah, it's very R&B-ish though. So I mean, if they want to stop that, like to be mad about, us blackifying their characters, they can. Like, I don't get me wrong, I understand where they are coming from, because again, I said it on the post. Like, if somebody came out with a white Black Panther or a White Storm, White Static,
yeah, people
say like, "Oh, this is fan art, whatever." But if James Gunn casted a White Static Shock, do you understand the amount of uproar and rage that would be ensued?
People would burn down Warner Brothers.
It'd either be burned down or to get a super boost from the right wing people supporting it heavy just because.
Both could happen.
Both, probably.
Yeah, I think it's. I see. Here's what I'll say. Real quick is that people are allowed to feel the way that they feel. If this was a Japanese person or whatever it may have been, if he's like, "Hey man, this feels like cultural appropriation on some level," if you taking these Japanese characters that are sacred or that we have feeling that our people create these characters, and you're doing things with them that we don't appreciate, I get it. I've known people that have gotten upset when they see people like random ass white people wearing those tattoos that have Japanese symbols on them. Like, this is, you even know what that means? I get it. You're allowed to feel upset about things. You're allowed to be outraged by certain things. But one thing I do want to bring up is the idea of intent. If the person who did black wash Momo and them, if the intent was they were celebrating these characters and they're having fun with it, they didn't mean any harm by it, then so be it. If you are doing this in a sense where you're trying to culturally appropriate them, that could be something else. But regardless of what you are doing, remember it can upset people. It's very understandable. Like you said, with Static Shock, if they put a whitewash Static Shock, what are you doing? Even if you just have it where you have white Rastas, that can be offensive too. Things can offend people. People have the right to be upset about certain things, but at the same time, not everything's meant to harm. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, because we've had I know me and Ethan. I'm not even Ethan. Otis have had a conversation on my platform in regards to gatekeeping, and this has been something that's brought up a lot. I don't know if we talked about it like on a platform. I think we've talked about it like offline, but I don't know if we talked about it like on the dojo or on the podcast. But that being said, the conversation around that is kind of, it's always been around, but it's something I've seen a lot more in regards to gatekeeping recently, which is why I'm doing the panel on it, to where people always often discuss like the aspect of keeping something for their native culture in regards to the art, music, whatever it may be, to make sure it's something left for the next generation. I think that's the sentiment that I usually hear people that are pro gatekeeping say about it in regards to that, and the reasoning for why they're pro gatekeeping. Now, I do want to say I do think there's a difference in regards to the music or inspiration, like, because I think it'd be one thing if Japanese people were just like taking famous Black songs, like they took Thriller, right, and just like made a Japanese Thriller and just said fuck all that. That's a little different versus them being inspired by it, because I think J-pop is a little more it's more inspired than that, than just like taking something like verbatim 1-to-1. And I also think it's a different thing between like a character that's literally physically representing a culture, like has the traits and whatnot, versus a sound, which it may not be different. That could just be me too, because some people are going to feel however they want to feel about that from their culture or ours. I don't know. This whole conversation in general is very much so subjective, because it depends on what you consider culture and on what you are more supportive of or what you deem more protective of. Mm-hmm. I'm rambling now, but at this point, but what I'm trying to get across in general is the whole aspect of when you gatekeep, you try to keep things to yourselves. You have to understand that, and I said it on the stream earlier, your thing may not grow to where it is now. Like in regards to how great rap music got, there were a lot of different people that had influences on the way music went. Like some artists may not exist because they were inspired. I've heard Method Man in particular, one of his, I think it was the verse on either the Mystery of Chess Box. You know what I'm talking about? The Mystery of Chess Boxing or Check Boxing? I'm blanking on whatever that Wu-Tang song was. But he literally was taking like lines from different rock bands and flipping them for his verse. And that's like a legendary hip hop verse. So I'm like, if you gatekeep to that extent, what you love about the culture may not exist. And that's my whole thing of like, you can take inspiration from different parts to make your own thing better. Obviously, a lot of the outrage about the art piece in general is people that feel like there's a double standard in regards to them not being able to make art of Black characters. Like people feel like they can't make Storm White and then not catch heat, but you can do that. Which again,
I see what you're saying. Yeah,
I understand that standpoint in regards to some people that want to do that. I get that.
You're right.
But
I definitely see what you're saying. I mean, with Jay-Z, of course, did a whole thing with where he sampled from the Doors to make a song before on the blueprint or what have you. But it happens. It definitely happens all the time. Artists are going to inspire other artists. I feel like that's supposed to happen. I encourage my students to stand on the shoulders of those that came before them to make something even better than those. But it's a matter of, like you said, great artists borrow, good artists borrow, great artists steal. Understanding there are ramifications for what you do in trying to pay homage to those that came before you without insulting them. And if you're doing it with someone else's culture, if they do consider it sacred, making sure that it is channeled properly. If you do have a character that's meant to be a Wakandan prince, and Wakanda is meant to be a nation in Africa, and you make this dude a hardcore blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy that's supposed to be T'Challa, it's like, you got a problem there, bud. But at the same time, the blurred culture blurs. We love ourselves a lot of Japanese things like anime and things of that nature. We in general, we're not trying to appropriate it and we're not trying to disrespect it. We're trying to celebrate it. It's a matter of walking the fine line as far as celebrating these things without disrespecting those that made them sacred to their nation. We're in a weird place here. This conversation it's a weird conversation to have, but it is what it is.
I mean, I kind of feel my viewpoint is different than most people on this. I mean, if you do a thing and you do it well, I think people care less, right? Like if execution is the main thing at the end of the day. If something comes out well, the complaints about it are going to be significantly less than if it's you do it and you do it bad.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, one last thing I will say is originality is a good thing. If you can do something that's your own, by all means do it. But at the same time, there's almost nothing new under the sun. Everything is influenced by somebody else. Toriyama is, of course, famous for saying that Goku himself was influenced by, of course, Sun Wukong. So everything is influenced by something else.
He also has Superman's backstory. Just
he has Superman's backstory, which is, of course, came out even before that too. So it's these things. These are things that are undeniable. It just is what it is. Art is going to beget art.
Do you guys feel like us as a people kind of feel an entitlement to representation in certain aspects?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
I do.
Sure. I had the conversation mostly had to do a lot of like how we see certain characters like Piccolo or other they're humanoid but non-human characters that we feel like are black coded.
Black, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like Knuckles, Shadow, we just assume because they seem black coded to us. We're like, okay, they're black now. Like we command that representation of that character.
Right.
The random snatching of the Uchihas into the black community was so strange to me. It's like, so black people are the only oppressed people ever? Okay.
I ain't gonna lie though, I understand the Namekian stuff more and more the more I'm watching Daima. They just talked about.
They literally call them slaves. They say, yeah, yeah.
They were looked at as like third world people, like third world people, and we were using them as slaves, and they left to go find and build their own planet to have peace. And I'm like, okay, I understand it more now.
But again, this came out so much longer because obviously Piccolo was made in the 80s. Before then, with King Piccolo.
Yeah,
this may be Toriyama saying, okay, in light of all these things over the years, people have said, I can possibly make it that much more. I kind of reflect that more. That happens too.
Because he obviously like adjusts some stuff because he adjusted the way Popo was looking, obviously from his original version to now, and how he's depicted.
He's still
even the way black people in general were depicted in like Dragon Ball versus later on in the series.
Yeah, it wasn't just Popo, but again, that wasn't meant to be. That's one thing too. I'm sure you've seen the history about that. That wasn't meant to be offensive. In Japan, they don't have the whole shit. It's a different thing for them there. It's like, oh, we don't understand what...
That must be what black people look like. That's what I see. So that's got to be what they look like and how they talk and what they do.
But it wasn't, as far as they knew, because there are no black people in Japan. They're like, this is what we saw as, this is how they want to be represented. It was never meant to be offensive for them. They didn't understand that concept. So
that's why you saw so many black people that are put in those that are at least represented by them are usually musicians or athletes. Like you see a lot of Prince-inspired characters, a lot of Mike Tyson being in some of these anime.
You saw him Baki and everything,
yeah, because you just see them around the world. Because they transcend just America. But yeah, that's all I have. Did y'all have any like closing thoughts or sentiments?
That's such a big conversation.
I know. I didn't want to, because I know you had to go, so I didn't want to keep going down the rabbit hole if you had to go somewhere.
Nah, I feel that. It's funny because we like. Oh, by the way, let's sneak in this last little massive A-bomb drop of a conversation.
Hey man, I didn't think
classic.
Mostly because I talked about it already, so in my mind I've kind of already like summed it up, but I forgot like, oh yeah, I haven't talked about it with these guys at all yet either.
No, it's a great time. It's a good topic. I would have loved to have had more time to get into it. I think one thing too is sometimes we gotta find a way to get more guests on here that can represent some of these other viewpoints. Because it'd be cool to have a Japanese or Asian American telling us how they feel about some of these things too.
I'm working on it. I know I just did. I've been doing a bunch of interviews with different people. One lady in particular, Stella Chu, I believe is her name. She's a Japanese streamer and does a lot of like the commentary for a lot of the live tournaments for like a lot of the shooters like Overwatch and some other stuff. I can't remember. I gotta look at her catalog, but she hit me up about I was gonna do an additional interview with her, but I may see if she's just down to come on here. Because by the time she probably hits me back, I already have the video done for the other things. I may just see if I can get her on here to have that conversation.
No worries. I mean, it's on Otis and I too. We know people that, of course, you can come into these things. It's just that I obviously this show is meant to be the three of us, our opinions.
Yeah.
And we are by no means experts. I'm not an expert. Otis and Charlie know more than I do, but everything pretty much they're the goats. I'm an old man that's decrepit and senile. But we don't want to speak out of turn. I'll put it that way. These are opinions. These are not by any means meant to be sage. these are our opinions, but we don't want to offend anybody. So if we did, we apologize. We're just talking up here, you know.
Yeah, we by no means are our opinions the definitive opinions on most topics.
I know how to speak for no one but myself.
Yeah.
That being said, y'all want to plug anything before we get up out of here?
Check out blurred.com. Be on the lookout for blurred bouts getting dropped on YouTube. The blurred lifestyle and gaming YouTube soon. And be on the lookout for some big announcements from Blurred in the new year.
Right on.
Merry Christmas.
Give a shout out to Otis's new haircut. It looks dope. I'm digging that vibe.
Is it new?
Well, I mean, it looks clean. It looks crisp.
Oh, I was about to say that's the same size I for a minute.
I mean, it's still. I mean, a dope cut's a dope cut. Let's not.
It is. I can't be hating. I can't do it. So it is what it is.
I mean, your beard's trim. Trim. I'm hating because I didn't get a haircut. I'm getting a haircut right before I leave to go back to the East Coast. So I'm my hair's looking all raggedy now. Quick shout out to Charlie and I finished up the revenge script because I'm finally done with all my my teaching stuff, and he's finally done with all his school stuff. We'll knock that one out pretty soon. Mm-hmm. Also, I started diving back again in some of my other projects. A big project that Otis and I have coming up. I'm working on that some more. And Divine Influence number 2. I'm working on that script again some more.
About damn time.
I know it's because I didn't have. You don't understand how much time it takes to like grade and work on doing lesson plans for 90 kids. It's like, woo, buddy. And their parents care. It's one thing if their parents don't care what you do. When the parents actually give a shit a lot, it's like, I gotta try on purpose. So it's a different thing. But yeah, we got a lot of things are cooking, and then we're happy for it.
Yeah. Most of my announcements will be the kind of same things. I guess special attention will be to the revenge script. That's something that I have the Revenge Tales video. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with that video. I found the right person I wanted to edit that video. I think first from a script standpoint, I've had a lot of fun playing around with that, and I can't wait to get that done. And work on Ethan on another video in general. But again, for anybody watching that wants to find more of us, you can find us anywhere Then and Now Podcast. The links to all of our platforms will be in the description below. You can find us either here or on the Blurred website itself as well, and on the Captain Uses Dojo. You'll find all three of us on all those different platforms. Again, if you guys want to see more of what we have to say or just hate us rambling in general, don't have to watch. But if you do like us and want to see more of our content, we have literal years worth of videos and streams and all those different things of our opinions and assessments of different projects. So again, feel free to subscribe, like the video to help support the channel for free. You know, we don't charge you for that. We greatly appreciate that. Again, this has been Captain Diesel, Loose V, and Professor E, King of the Comics, and
you're listening to the Then and Now podcast.
We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Still thinking. Fantastic Four has to hit.
I think it does. I think Super